Hi guys, welcome back to another week here in my little studio. I got really lucky this past week and we finally got a cold snap here in Florida. So I finally got to get out in the field and do some work in my sketchbook, my nature sketchbook. So I'm going to be sharing a bit of that with you today. It was so refreshing. It was about 56 degrees, super clear, blue sky, not a cloud in the sky, one of those kind of days. Crystal clear, and it was just really reinvigorating. I love being out there so much, but I got to do a couple of quick pages while I was out there, and I'm going to be sharing that today, as well as when I got back to the studio, I decided to expand upon that and play with a couple of pages in another sketchbook, just expanding upon what I learned and seeing if I could stretch myself to be abstract in my sketchbook here in the studio. So I'm going to be sharing some of that, what I gleaned from that little play today. But before we get started, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, all that stuff. All those things help that YouTube algorithm that's so infamous to reach out to everybody and encourage other people to come and hang out with us here and help this channel grow so I can continue to be here with you and share what my journey is, my own personal art journey. So with that, no further ado. It's so peaceful out here. This is my favorite time of year, and it's my favorite time of day to be out. Towards the end of the day, things are getting quiet, aside from gunshots. You hear all kinds of little noises and you're like, what is that? Usually it's nothing. But after having a rattlesnake creep out of the woods on me one time, I learned that lesson. But I was fine. Just a little scary. And it's funny because it's pretty cold today, and I'm feeling kind of cocky, thinking there's no snakes out, but someone told me that was riding horseback earlier that she saw a rattlesnake in the back of this property, a 6-footer, moving about. But she said he was really slow. But nonetheless, not an experience I want to have with any kind of crazy wild animal like that. But yeah, this is the best thing about doing plein air. I don't like carrying a lot of equipment in. That's why I stopped doing so much oil painting unless I can drive someplace. And what I love about my sketchbook and my watercolor setup and just a few pencils is the fact it's easy enough, even bringing in my stool and my little tripod for my phone, or to put this little Osmo on. That's light enough and still feel like you're getting out and enjoying nature and the peace that's out here. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. Let me take my glasses off because stop seeing that reflection and actually see me. But it's really, really beautiful. One thing that's missing is I have a little stove thing, and it will heat up like a cup of tea. That's really sweet. I love that. But the days when I would just come out here and sit in my hammock and make tea and stuff was with I had Sashi with me, my German Shepherd, and so I felt really comfortable, and it was like, oh, like I fell asleep. I just felt so comfortable. But I think I'm gonna see if I can go and find maybe one more spot to try to do a sketch. I saw a tree, more in my vein of trees, back towards the front. There's the sandhill cranes. And see if I can get in one more sketch before the day ends, before my Saturday ends. And yeah, it's really lovely here. Really, really so lovely. My wonky hat. Look at my wonky hat. My hat's like, that's the way it's supposed to be, like that, where the little droopy's in the middle, but I'm always a bit of a mess. That is so pretty back there. Look at that tree. So gorgeous. There's my little setup with my chair and my little tripod for my phone and my sketchbook and my little traveling set there, some pencils and a little watering thing and my little blue carafe that holds my water. Super simple setup. That's about all I'm gonna do. Popped in some quick pink color because everything keeps changing, of course. At first I had lots of pops of ochre at the tops of the trees, but now as it's just about getting dark, there's a lot more pink in the skyline and purples. But yeah, that's all we're gonna do today. Really quick that one. Well, both really quick, but got something done. A new entry into the nature sketchbook. So good deal. Pretty tree. So today I am going to try to reinterpret a couple of things from my sketchbook into here. The first round that I'm going to do, I think I'm going to choose this one first, and I'm going to not look at my photograph reference, which I have, and let's just play. That's my plan for today. And what I'm thinking about doing is that depending on what my results are, I will do it on larger pieces of paper and just play. That's all I'm doing today is play. So let's see here. Getting out my stuff. So this is the Oh Hoo Hoo book right here. So it's mixed media. And I'm sure it will buckle a bit, but that's okay. We're just playing, just for play. And I'm going to do this one here. It's going to be big and sloppy. And I'm going to start off with my watercolors first. Because, I mean, that's what I did here, but I think I'm also going to maybe touch in some of my new Turner acryl gouache, and see what it's always like. I think the more, and this is the thing, I'm not as well versed on playing as I wish I was, so my encouragements for you are also encouragements for myself. And so let me get this kind of set up here. Start off with some pinks and stuff, and you can't really see too much about what I'm doing here. These are my colors that are like always on the palette of my Mgram, and so I know I want some pinks. Sometimes with pinks you might want to add in a touch of yellow, kind of puts you more towards the like a peach color. So I can do that, and if you want it cooler, you can add a touch of blue. But I didn't even start with the cadmium, I started with the magenta. And actually, let's see, I'm not sure if this is the magenta, but these are both like in the magenta range, and that's cad red for sure. So I know I want that as a start, and I want some sky blue. These are my two primary things. Add in a bit of cobalt and ultramarine combinations here. So, all right, that's what I'm gonna do for the sky for now. Okay, let's see. Just plop that in. And now the thing is like, so the trick is paying attention to what you're mixing, obviously. So that pink is going to, it can start changing colors. If you add in some yellow to your blues, you're gonna get like a green look. So be careful, and you know, it's always best to work light and go from light to dark. That's the general rules of watercolors, light to dark. Doesn't always, rules aren't always true, but usually true. And I don't really want this to be overly worked. So I can already kind of feel like I'm doing that. So that's why I think this is going to take a few times, and why I think after this one I'm going to do just loose pieces of paper, because I think I'm going to like my results a little bit better. And then I have to let things dry with watercolor or gouache with watercolor, anything like that. That's the only downside. That, or I've got to use a hair dryer. So, and I'm sure that this looks super light because it is. So I'm going to just add in some dark pops at the top, because it is dusk and it's starting to get a little more dark, a little more ultramarine at the top, even though you can't tell it in that picture because I was working really fast. And this, I'm still trying to keep my fastness, so that's why I feel like I got to do a few passes at this, a few times. Okay, I want to use my pencil to rough in my shapes here. I don't know if you saw, like, this thing was curling up with the heat gun. It's kind of crazy, kind of funny. Kind of cool to watch the paper react to the water and then the dryness. I mean, it would be perfectly flat if it was taped down, but we don't care. We're just playing right now. So like I said, this is going to be, and composition wise, typically you don't necessarily put trees or things right in the middle like this, but that's what I did here. That's my focus. Like I said, rules are meant to be broken, and I think what balances it out is just other elements. Things like typical rules are like never put your horizon line right in the middle, or any kind of dividing line directly in the middle, which this kind is, but it's the focal point. But then things around it can be balanced, unless, you know, there's a couple things. So like you can either choose to go with what nature has given you, or you can choose to do some tweaks to the landscape as you go, so that your composition is better. And so I'm just going to tell you in general something about thinking about rules. And I am not a rules girl, but I know some rules work because they follow maybe the rules of nature or something. So when it comes to trees, doing curly like that, like curly lines, even though you think you're seeing curly lines, it's not the best way to draw a tree. The best way to draw a tree and its branches are a series of angles. You just get better results to where it looks more like a tree, because when you look at it in detail, limbs and stuff seem to go into direction for a moment and then they start altering. But the angles are so slight usually that you don't even realize that you're looking at slight angle changes. So that's something you can observe in nature if you take your time to look at it. But it certainly does make a difference as to whether or not a tree will look more lifelike or not. And same thing with thicker parts towards the base of the tree. The tree usually starts thicker at its base, unless there's some issue with the tree itself. Sometimes the trees are not, like even this tree technically is not directly straight, so I can tweak the angles of it a little bit here and there to get more like what I know I was seeing out in the woods. I'm just getting down my basic little happy tree line back here. Here I use some like Bob Ross, the happy trees. And part of me is dying to go get my reference photo, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to. I'm just going to push through on this. See what I get. And there was other palm trees back here, but let's see. I want to get this thicker branch in. Go up here. And it's probably going to be completely different in my reference photo. So, all right. I feel like I already am. And I think why, part of the reason why is because I'm sitting at an angle to it than I was before. Because I can see more. So this is why I might have to stand up when I do the other one the larger one that I do. Sometimes what I do, because if a tree's more kind of like got a lot of light coming through it and stuff, my suggestion is to look at the basic structure, because even though, you know, this might be just like a cluster of needles, you might still see like the outline of the basic tree structure. And as long as you get that, you know, kind of like your boundaries of like where you want things to be. So sometimes that'll be something that I do when I'm trying to get something down really quick. Sometimes I don't have the time. I don't have the time, especially when you're out in the field. I don't have the time to work out all these little needles and holes where the light is getting through and all that. But I'm going to be going a little further in some of the work that I do, I think, on these quick studies. But I'm not sure. Like I said, I want to get that balance back. So I think that's enough information for me to get started, at least with the general watercolor. All right, so, and I am going to layer some other things. I'm going to use my Graham, and I'm going to use a bit of my Turner gouache, the acrylic gouache that I just got, and then I'm going to use some pencils. Now those things work well together because they will dry and they won't peel. And you know, the one thing about the gouache, the acrylic gouache, is that once you put it down, you can't move it again. It's stuck. And that's the bad thing about regular gouache, is if you put it down, you can easily move it again. So it's a push and play about, like, you know, like what you really want, to do and use. Technically it's late, and I'm just going to do some of this quick because it's actually time for me to go to bed because it's a school night and I gotta work tomorrow. I'm not a teacher. I just sometimes still use that as a, let's see. So I'm using like a little bit of my Payne's Gray and a little bit of burnt and sienna. Burnt umber, raw sienna, Payne's Gray, kind of just playing with it. You can add a little blue in if you want it to be cooler. Or a little red if you want it to be warmer. All right. And I kind of liked in the picture, I think I used more of like a cooler. This almost looks a little warm, but that's fine right now. It is fine. Okay, I'm just popping stuff in. Popping. Not gonna get worked up about anything not being quite right. I do know, even though I'm not looking at my reference, that there was some real ochre colors here because even though it was dusk, the sun was kissing the tops of these trees and stuff in spots. So I know this tree was especially looking very ochre, and right now I'm just putting in, I still have, you know, my brush is contaminated with sap grain still, but I'm just popping that in. And I could add in maybe a touch of yellow to that. I didn't really mix that on the palette, so we're just gonna lay it down. And just gonna do this. So in the areas where it's cool, it might be a little bit more of this, what is this? Can't think of the name of the screen right this second. I'll pop it on the screen when I share this. But it's very cool, minty color as it moves into the shadows. And then the same thing back here. Sap green is one of my favorite colors to use in the fields because I feel like it's the closest thing to nature, that I don't have to do a lot of like pre-mixing, because sometimes if you just mix cad yellow and like ultramarine blue, it's hard to get with your blues and your yellows the right color. But I feel like if I'm starting with my sap green, I'm in the right family, I'm in the right place. And then I'll use variations. Like over here, there was a lot more of the ochre color in the trees where it too was being kissed a bit by the sun. And then I know that down here it wasn't kissed by the sun, but there was a lot of like dried up grass, but it was kind of you know, it was in the shadows so that you still saw the warmth. And what I'm doing right now is it's a bit of the Payne's Gray with a bit of the sap green and a bit of the ochre, just to kind of get the feeling in. I feel it's feeling a little similar to what I did. It's just darker because I've got more time to mix versus having that tiny little palette. And I remember that it was darker towards me because there was all kinds of brush and stuff. And I guarantee you, it's like I'm going to tell you right now, because this sketch was done so quick that there was very little time for a whole lot of observation. That when I go back and use the reference as help in the next try, maybe, we're gonna see a big difference probably. Like, just a lot of difference, but kind of like it, like this little bloomy thing that's happening right here. So these are the happy accidents that kind of happen, and that's cool. It's all right. You know, we're just living the dream here, doing what we can. I'm just trying to make a reference to the changes in the trees a little bit. Of course, the one thing you have to worry about too is atmosphere. So might want to consider that a little bit and push things back a hair. Pop in a little bit more of that so I don't lose it. I'm just going to let it slide around a little bit. It's all right. We'll do the Matthew McConaughey thing. It's all right, all right, all right. All right, all right, all right. Let's see, my pink is not quite... I just want to do a kiss of pink. It's not quite right where I want it. Don't get scared. There we go. We're going to put some in. Move it around a little bit. Blend it in. Found a little bit of yellow somewhere. Blend it a little bit into that dried piece. And pop it in a little more. It's all right. There we go. And push that back just a hair. Just my paper towel rag. That's all I'm doing. Okay, so the turtles. Probably not going to use all of these. Just going to use a couple. You can actually add a little bit of watercolor into your gouache as well, whether it be the acrylic gouache or whatever, and just kind of mush them around, add to the color. They will work. Thing is, you have to work fast with these colors. That's the only thing, unless you put like something that hinders the drying, which I don't want to do. And I don't want it to completely, like, I'm not covering up all my stuff. I just want to water it down and add to, well, I'll kind of using it like watercolor itself. It's not really thick. I like my burnt umber to be a bit more burnt, like closer to that. I'm just gonna have it like darker at the bottom of the tree. And you know, I might go back and add details later. So I could just do kind of like brush, use the texture of the brush with you just a little bit as well. Kind of like some of my texture of my pencil. So I'm just going to do it just a little. And not my, yeah, my pencil that I used earlier. And let's see, what else do I kind of want to do? Trying to make the those trees look a little pushed back, like they're really in the distance and there's stuff out there. Just want to use these these Lightfast pencils that I just got, because I don't want it to move around on me. I want it to stay still. So, all right. And again, not looking at my reference. I know there was a lot of branches on this tree, and that's fine. I just want to get an idea of what it kind of looked like based off of what you're going to be surprised when you see the original photo how different this looks. And things are not, supposed to be super accurate. That's not ever my goal. I didn't worry too much about whether or not this was super light here, because this is just a test, and it's not like it's not a super realistic thing. It's more impressionist. But when I've done watercolors in the past, if you saw my sketchbook challenge I did last year, I did a couple of trees and stuff, and you can get more of an idea of what more of a longer study of a tree will be from that, at least from my perspective, the way I do things. I'm actually kind of ad-libbing here a bit because I know I did that out in the field. Like I said, thicker at the base, thinner as you go. I know that there's just a bunch of other things here, but I'm just going to rough it in. See, even though I'm not changing my pencil, I am just going lighter and thinner at the ends here. That's how I get the illusion of it being tree-like. Along with those angles. I think those angles are my biggest secret to successful trees. When I was younger, and I would try to make them more curvy and windy and stuff, because I thought that's what I was seeing. They didn't look that great. They just didn't. So I know that this is a lot more, there's a lot more going on up here for sure. And there's a lot going everywhere. Let's see, put a little palm fronds in, because that's what we do here. Palmettos everywhere. It's gonna add some of those scratches for the illusion of grasses and things growing in the field. And in the one where if I do the one where I'm using the reference, there'll be a lot more stuff to add. There'll be a lot more things that I pay attention to other than this quick trial. And then this is just the seaweed color that I'm using right now. I know, like, this tree was like a lot darker. And of course, being at dusk, you know, your eyes play into everything. It plays into how wide your pupil is open and how much light is being seen. So that's going to be the difference between like what my camera saw and what I was seeing when I was out there. And I'm just going to fake some stuff in here because there was a lot more branches and stuff over here. It's not really like amazing right now at all, and it may stay that way. Okay, let me stand up. Tell me what you think. What do I think? It's alright. It's okay. Nothing to write home about. It'll do for right now. That's gonna be my first pass. So that's all for tonight. Time to go to bed. It's late.